Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already for daily NBA playoff content. Also, drop a like on this video to help it in the YouTube algorithm. Also, real quick, I mentioned this like 2 videos ago on this channel. I did a video on the Knicks versus Hawks, and that video got tanked because I uploaded a video on this channel that everyone was watching before that one. It was just very poor timing on my part, and because it had a low click-through rate initially, it tanked in the algorithm, but I'd appreciate it if you went and watched it. It's literally the best breakdown video I did, and tragically, it's the one with the least amount of views by a mile. But today, I am talking about Blazers versus Nuggets. I just did a video covering Heat versus Bucks, which was a blowout, and this game ended up being a blowout as well. There is 43 seconds left in the game as I'm looking at it right now, and the Nuggets are up by 19 points. This was a very interesting game. In the first half, I think Dame had 33, somewhere in that ballpark. He had 8 3-pointers in the first half, which I would wager is likely a playoff record for 3.5. Now, everyone was expecting that Lillard would go for the playoff record for threes made, period, which is 11 by Klay Thompson, but that did not happen because in the second half, the Nuggets decided to put Aaron Gordon on Dame, and they started doubling him more, or giving him more defensive attention at the very least, stepping up more on screens, which was a note that I put for the first half of this game and after game 1 as well. But yeah, so after putting up 33 points, or somewhere in that, it was 30-something in the first half. In the second half, he now has 42 points, and I know he's on the bench right now, and actually the buzzer just ended, so there you go. He finishes with 42 points. Jokic had 38 points on 15 for 20 shooting, and Dame, he got in the first half, he had those 8 threes in the typical Damian Lillard fashion. I think the first one, or one of the first ones that he hit in the game, he hit a logo 3. He had Compazzo, I believe it was, on him, and a screen was coming, and he didn't even bother denying the screen. He just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to shoot it from 35 feet out. Swishes like it's nothing, because hey, Dame does that type of shit. One thing, I was in a call, doing a Zoom call with some friends for this game, and I had Denver Double D Worth on YouTube in the call, and he is a Warriors fan, and he was complaining quite a bit about how much single coverage Dame had, because of course, being a Warriors fan, he's in the Steph versus Dame debate all the time, which, by the way, shouldn't be a fucking debate. He mentioned a tweet someone said where Steph is MJ and Dame is Clyde Drexler. That kind of summarizes it. Like, they're on 2 different levels, but people at the time were acting like for some reason that wasn't the case. But Dame, yeah, he had a great game. Second half, not good. I tweeted out as well, like, playoff Dame is actually a real thing today, because when you go and look at it, he has many terrible series. He has, of course, some good series on the resume as well, but for the most part, it's more bad than good. And when people act like Dame is just the best playoff performer in the league, it's like, it's not really true. But he had a great first game in this series. If I can, maybe I'll be able to pull up the box score. Can I do that? No, I can't. Okay, NBA app sucks. I can't find it. Okay, that's great. But I know he had like 30 something in the first game. He has 42 here, so he's definitely came out firing in this one. Just the second half, they put Aaron Gordon on him, which was interesting. Initially, I was like, I don't know if Gordon has the speed for that matchup, but being that Dame was mostly trying to attack on the perimeter, not as much get into the paint, didn't end up being too big of a deal. Maybe you could argue he was hunting threes, but I don't know. I mean, it makes sense to hunt threes when you have 8.5, but didn't work, obviously. Outside of that, for the Blazers, CJ shot well when he got shots, but he only got 12 shots in this game. I'll be honest, after Dame had that first half that was really hot, obviously, it kind of felt like in the second half, he was like trying to continue that hot streak, and when it wasn't there, he kept shooting anyways. And like, I understand it, that's frustrating when like you have the hot streak and it just kind of falls through when you take the break. But at a certain point, Dame was shooting in instances where he should have been passing, and I think that's part of the reason why CJ only has 12 shots in this game. Carmelo Anthony played poorly off of the bench after a great game 1, which was definitely a big factor in this one because Melo was a big factor in game one. Norman Powell was fine but did not shoot the ball much. Nurkic, interesting in this one, fouled out in 24 minutes. Michael Malone is the coach of the Denver Nuggets, and I understand Michael because I don't like when people call me Jake. My name is Jacob, and now that I've said that, I've opened Pandora's box. But I kind of understood where Michael there was coming from. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then look into it. Trust me, it's hilarious. But Nurkic, 5 fouls, like 8 minutes to go in the game around when that happened. And then Terry Stotts, the head coach of the Blazers, doesn't take him out of the game. And then literally next possession on offense, Nurkic goes to, like, drops the shoulder in a post move on a guard in the paint, and he's called for a charge and out of the game. Now, a lot of people were like freaking out about this on Twitter, like, "Oh my God, why would Terry Stotts not take him out?" But honestly, Nurkic has not been particularly good for the Blazers ever since his newest return from injury. To the point where I was like, I don't think losing him is as big of a deal as some might act like it is. Now, that's not to say that the backup is significantly better, because the backup, of course, is Enes Kanter, who's not particularly good. They did run a little bit of Melo at power forward and Covington at center for a little bit, so that was interesting. But, you know, I wouldn't recommend running small against Nikola Jokic. And I think I've covered Dame and the Blazers enough here. Let's actually talk about the Nuggets side of things. The title of this video is going to be something along the lines of Dame is ridiculous, but so is Jokic. And that's because Jokic had 38 points on 15 for 20 from the field, and it was in Jokic fashion, did it in the most fucking basic way possible. A lot of catch and shoot mid-range jumpers in this one, short little post-ups, hit 2 3-pointers. There was one big one at the end of the second quarter he hit that was like, as much as Dame was going off, especially to close the second quarter, Jokic was matching it at certain points. Michael Porter was better in this one than in game one, while Michael, I wouldn't say he was actually better. Probably not looking at this box score. He was not taking as many questionable shots, I'll say, and he shot better from 3 because he was 1 for 10 and 3 in game one. But he was definitely more selective, I suppose. But he actually did shoot 38% from the field. So I don't know if now that I'm actually looking at the box score, at least my eye test told me he was playing a little bit better, but I guess I kind of hesitate on that one now that I'm seeing the box score. Monte Morris is good off the bench. Another important one, Paul Millsap. Paul was bad in game one. In this game, 15.7 rebounds, 5 for 8 shooting. A little surprising he only played 15 minutes, but he played very good in this game after being doo-doo in game one. Another player I want to mention on the Nuggets side of things is Shaq Harrison. He had an and one dunk that he didn't actually end up getting an and one on because he missed the free throw. But he, on top of that dunk, was really good defensively. And Shaq Harrison played for Chicago for a little bit. He only really saw garbage time, but when he did, he was so good defensively, particularly good at getting steals. And then while offensively, he can't shoot a 3 to save his life. He was pretty good at driving. I'm actually going to look up his stats. Of course, when you look up Shaq's stats, Harrison is not the first one to come up. But in Chicago, he averaged 1.2 steals and 0.8 steals in around 15 minutes per game. So if we pull that over to per 36, for his career, he averages 2.3 steals per 36, averaged 2.5 his second year in Chicago. He's just really good at stealing the ball, really solid defensively. He puts all of his energy into that end. That's a good thing about having players who are not the most talented skill-wise, is when they are in that position and they know it, very often they are just going to put all their energy into something like defense because they know that's what it's going to take to keep them alive in the NBA. And that, like fighting for my life spirit is something you want out of a defensive player. And when you have a player who's got other things that he has going for him, and like his spot in the NBA is certainly secure, you don't always get that. And that's what Shaq has going for him. And honestly, with how Dame has been going off in the first 2 games in this series, I would probably give him some minutes, some real minutes, like up to like 20. Because, I mean, they have his name is Marcus Howard. I know he was a big guy in college. I'm not college guy, so I don't really know much about him. But, like, he's been fine in his play time. But, like, I would be more interested in the defense Shaq Harrison would bring than the spacing that it seems Marcus Howard is more capable of bringing. But, you know, play it by ear, of course. But, like, Dame has been killing it, especially in the pick and roll. I mentioned earlier, like, players not stepping up when they need to. There was one play at the end of the second quarter where Dame came off of a screen and Michael Porter got a hand up, but it was like you got to get an even better hand than that. Like you're not putting up enough effort on this contest, really. And that was one of the better ones. That's the sad part. A lot of sidestep threes out of the pick and roll as well. Like very often he's going into the screen, immediately seeing that the big is dropping, and then as soon as his man is trying to fight through the screen, he kind of steps to the side so the contest from the man coming off of the screen is really ineffective because by then he's already created plenty of space. That's one of the ways he got a 3 at the end of the first. I feel like he had like 3 threes in 2 minutes at the end of the first quarter or second quarter. That's what it felt like anyways. But yeah, that is about it on this game. I'm going to check my notes just to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I don't think so. I put Dame can't miss. Jokic also can't miss. Nuggets need to double Dame. I mentioned the single coverage thing. I understand that CJ can do stuff off of the dribble. If Melo's on the floor, he can do stuff off of the dribble. Norman Powell, same thing. But especially if it's just like one of those guys on the floor and you also have a guy in position like Jokic who I'd rather just have Jokic in the paint got kind of ready for those guys rather than getting him out there on the perimeter, potentially defending Dame. Like, have Jokic in the paint as, like, just a big body that can get in the way and then throw doubles at Dame where you can. Don't overcommit to the point where you're giving up easy offense, but you can't quite do it to the degree that people were doing it against Steph because the problem with the Warriors is when you double Steph, you force Warriors players to make decisions, and as we saw in that game versus the Grizzlies, they're not the best at that. And the Blazers players outside of Dame are significantly better in that regard. So you can't do it to nearly that degree and to nearly that effectiveness. But you can do it here and there and not just give him single coverage on every possession. Like, the NBA storyteller on Twitter was like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but like, I sure would be nice if Steph could be shooting these jump shots over one defender. I don't care about that comparison. It's not really a fair comparison to Dame. Like, Dame is a great player. Steph is a great player. Appreciate them. Stop with all this fucking comparison for no goddamn reason. How good Damian Lillard is has nothing to do with how good Steph is. And really, that's why I'm entirely done with player comparisons for the most part. Because at the end of the day, who is better between Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell has absolutely zero effect on the actual product. Like, let's actually talk about what is meaningful in basketball and not who you think is better because of X, Y, and Z. It doesn't actually matter, really. If we're talking about all-time rankings, that's a different conversation. But if we're just talking about right now and the players are on different teams, and even if the players are on the same teams, like, who's the best player on the Utah Jazz? Who the fuck cares? They're all on the Utah Jazz. They're all teammates. It doesn't matter. People were getting mad about Jordan Clarkson winning MVP, or not MVP. No. Sixth Man of the Year over Joe Ingles, and I wanted Joe Ingles to win the award as well. But, like, Joe Ingles handed him the Sixth Man of the Year award and, like, was jovial about it. He was happy for him. Like, they are teammates. They don't give a fuck. They don't actually give a fuck about who is the best player between them. It doesn't matter. This just turned into a whole nother fucking rant, but I don't know. It's something that bothers me quite a bit. Like, at the end of the day, who is better between Booker and Mitchell, or who is better between Steph and Dame has no effect on either of those players. It has no effect on their teams. It's just a stupid argument that people like to have on NBA Twitter. I don't know. But yeah, I guess it gives me content when it happens, so that's fair game, I suppose. I don't know. Rant over and video over. Goodbye.